Hi there, my name is Linda Jo Martin, also known as the Book Lady on YouTube. I am sitting right next to Highway 96, so you may hear some cars and trucks going by as I'm speaking to you. And I am looking at the Klamath River, so before I get done here, I will turn the camera around and you too can see the beautiful Klamath River that I am sitting right next to. So I started traveling on July 2nd, and I have been in the Happy Camp area since July 4th, having a whole lot of fun because I used to live here. And there are a lot of people here that I recognize from my time of living here until I moved 6 years ago to North Idaho. So I haven't been able to make videos before this, and I'm still experimenting with lighting issues and having some frustration over that, but you know that old saying, never give up. So today I want to talk about books that I read during June and July because I did not make a June wrap-up or a July TBR, so I'm going to kind of cover all of that right now. And in June, I read, at the very beginning of the month, I was still reading Scarlet. Scarlet is the second book in the Lunar Chronicles. It is futuristic, dystopian, post-apocalyptic, and I believe it's a very good YA series. The Lunar Chronicles, I'm very impressed, really very imaginative, and she deserves all the success that she got. I'm talking about the author, Marissa Meyer, and I recommend them. I had them in mind for years, but I resisted because I was all over doing YA series, and then because of a booktuber, Charlie Trough, I went ahead and decided to pick up Lunar Chronicles and start reading it. So I've read 2 of them now, and I will probably read the rest. The next book I've been reading is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and I'm still reading it. Vibrant Watercolors I gave up on for the time being because there was a lot of technical information, and I just wasn't all into that right now, because a lot of it was repetitive for me. But I loved her paintings. The author's name is Hazel, Lael. The next book that I read, I didn't actually read, I listened to an audiobook, and it is The Green Age of Asher Witherow, and I totally recommend that book. It was just amazing. I read it for the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge for a prompt to read a book that makes you nostalgic, and I was very nostalgic because it took place in a location that I visited many times with my children when I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area in the 1990s. Of course, the action in the book was before that. It was more like the 1870s, and there was still coal mining going on, and there was still a little town called Nortonville there. But these days, Nortonville is gone, as well as the other 4 coal mining and sand mining towns in that area. These days it's called Black Diamond Mines Regional Preserve, and when you go there you can see the sand mine, and you can see coal mine remnants that are on the surface. And also you can see the cemetery, Rose Hill Cemetery, and I went there so many times with my children just because we loved being out in the countryside, and it was so peaceful there, and also just so mysterious because all the little towns were entirely obliterated. Everything from the towns was gone. It had been carried away. Houses had been moved or torn apart. So it was just sort of a strange place. It was also very beautiful. Anyhow, The Green Age of Asher Witherow does incorporate some of the actual people that lived in the area way back when there were coal mines there, and also goes over some of the tragedies that happened there. There were a lot of sad things that happened as well. So I very much recommend it. The audiobook was a little hard for me to understand because the man who read the story had a very strong Welsh accent, but that was true to life because the people in that region that were working the coal mines were mostly Welsh. So the next book that I wanted to tell you about is Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood. This is the second book I have read by her, and I thought it was tremendous, just wonderful. I love her writing, and I'm going to read one more of her books this year. So far I've read The Handmaid's Tale and Alias Grace. Well, Alias Grace is the one I read in June, and it was about a young woman who was convicted of murder along with a young man. They were both servants in the house of the people who got murdered, and then they ran away together. And whether she ran away voluntarily or with the young man because she was afraid not to is really not known. The young man was hung for his part in the murders, and she was given a life sentence. So it was a very good historic novel that was based on the story of this woman. The next book that I read it on Kindle, and it was because a 7th grade teacher, an English teacher that goes to my church, recommended Touching Spirit Bear. Touching Spirit Bear is such an inspirational book. It is a young adult novel, but it would be good for anyone to read. It's about a juvenile delinquent boy who, as part of his sentence, had to go live on an island for a year alone. And I recommend it. The teacher that recommended it to me was very enthusiastic, and now that I've read it, I am very enthusiastic too. So, highly recommended. And the next book I read was The Oregon Trail. It was a choose-your-own-adventure book. I only did a couple of the threads through the book, and then I gave it away to somebody for whom it was more age appropriate because it is a children's book. It had nice thick pages with beautiful illustrations, and I was very impressed by that. So if you know a child that would enjoy that, I do recommend The Oregon Trail. The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson. I just happened to read that one afternoon when I was out traveling. It was a short book. Bruce Wilkinson is a Christian and usually writes Christian books, and this one was really more oriented towards reminding people of the dreams that they had, like when you were a child, what did you dream about doing with your life? What did you think that you could do to change the world and make it a better place? Or this is something you wanted to do, like I've always wanted to write novels. And he encourages people to analyze whether or not their dream has been fulfilled, and then to take steps to fulfill it if it hasn't happened yet. So, pretty good book, actually. The next book, well, we're getting into June now. No, July. We're leaving June and going into July. So July, I've been listening to an audiobook version of America's First Daughter. I read this for the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge. The prompt was to read a book written by 2 women. And America's First Daughter was from the point of view of Thomas Jefferson's oldest daughter, Polly, or Patty. No, her name was Patsy, and her younger sister was Polly. So nobody knows whether or not these girls were aware of Thomas Jefferson's affair with Sally Hemings, which apparently took place after his wife passed away and asked him to promise never to remarry. But he didn't remarry. Instead, he chose to have an affair with one of his slaves. And in the book, they were aware of it. So it was one of the major threads through the book, as well as his political career and her romances. The next book that I've been reading is Bound for Glory by Woody Guthrie. And he is, of course, a famous American folk singer, and he wrote this book about his childhood mostly, but I'm more than halfway through, and now he's leaving his childhood behind and moving on, and he's already done a little singing, but then he got rid of his guitar, so I don't know what happens next, but you know he's he's going to get another guitar eventually because he was a famous folk singer. And surprisingly, he was also an artist. So I found that of interest, that he was actually a creative in more than one way. So the next book that I wanted to tell you about is Blank Canvas, which is an autobiography of a manga artist done as a graphic novel, a manga novel, and it's the first time I've ever read manga. It was very good, and I recommend it. Just a lot of fun to read. The next book, I am currently reading a Bible study book by Beth Moore called Living Beyond Yourself. This is being studied by a Bible study group right here in Happy Camp, California, that I joined in on, and it's about the fruits of the Spirit. I've read two of Beth Moore's other similar books. They're called Breaking Free and Children of the Day. These books are 10-week studies, and each week you have 5 different lessons to go through. It takes about, half an hour to an hour to go through each lesson each day, so it's pretty intense. And then when you get together as a group, there is a video, and that is always fun too. I started my new devotional on my birthday, July 13th. The new devotional is Jesus Always by Sarah Young. And also yesterday and today I reread a book that is very good for writers, and I very much recommend it. I've been reading this one for years. It only takes 90 minutes for me to listen to the audiobook version. It's a very short book. It is called Do the Work by Stephen Pressfield. If you are involved in any kind of creative endeavor, whether it's writing or art or anything where you have to produce something, this is a very good book to read. And that will be it for my June-July reading update. It's been fun making another video, and I will give you a few shots of the Klamath River as I sign off. And this is my traveling companion. My traveling companion is so easy to get along with. It is a prayer plant, and it apparently likes traveling because it's just thriving. It's even putting out new flowers. How about that? I didn't know a plant could travel so well. I got this prayer plant on July 4th, 2014. A friend gave it to me when I was baptized, so it's very dear to me, and I thought I would take it along on my adventure, and I'm glad it's doing so well.